Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hey everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. Joining me on the show today for a special chat is Erin Hall. Hi, Erin.
Hi, Demi. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Good, good.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. We have lots to chat about. But first, I would love for you to share a little about yourself and your journey in music so far.
I am a singing, songwriting cellist, which isn't very common, but I basically play my cello more like an upright bass, and I accompany myself. And I have about 3 albums out there, and I just released a new single. And I'm based in New York City, so I perform quite a bit here.
Perfect. So we have lots to chat about just within that itself. What first drew you to music when you were younger?
I love to sing. I loved singing, and my dad was very influential. He actually had us join a church that had a very big music program. So I was singing in choir around the age of 3 or 4. Then that continued into high school. I also fell in love with the cello. 5th grade. Saw it in 5th grade. I saw the junior high school orchestra, and so I decided I wanted to play the cello, and that stuck with me too. I just couldn't stop.
I love it. I love cello. So you do do you do classical as well?
I did. I studied classical. You kind of have to study classically, but not necessarily. But back then I did. And when I got to college, I kind of had a little crisis because I didn't want to. I knew I couldn't be. I didn't want to be that competing for orchestra spots. That just didn't seem like my future. And when I went home at the end of the day, I didn't listen to classical music. I listened to pop music, I listened to folk music, I listened to funk, I listened to disco even. I love every genre of music. So it's really hard for me to it was hard for me to see myself as like to commit to just being a classical cellist.
I totally relate to that because I grew up playing classical piano since I was 10. And when I went to college, I majored in music and English, but I studied classical music with that education. I played a lot of classical piano and I still do. I took a little bit of a break during COVID because I couldn't really do recitals, but I finally got back into it. But it was the same thing. Like, even though my education was classical based, like, I knew I didn't want to be a classical pianist as, like, a career, but I still I play piano on my songs. I know a lot of music theory that's super helpful in songwriting and music and everything in general, but I think it's super cool how we both kind of started in that classical space and then branched out.
It's such an incredible background because it's true. You get the theory, and you're exposed to such incredible music that was written so long ago, and then we're still playing it. We're still trying to play it and play it well, which is crazy, right? But no, I honestly, I was like, I don't think I can be that cello soloist. I would be fighting for the last chair in the orchestra. So
That's so funny. Yeah, I think it's interesting though because like when I do my normal like shows and stuff now with my own music and covers and stuff, I don't really get nervous. But when I was in school, my performance anxiety was ridiculous because like you're surrounded by such talented musicians who are students, professors, and it was constantly like I was under a microscope getting graded and graded and graded. And like now, even when I do my classical music, I have this mindset of like, I can't mess it up. Everything has to be perfect. I gotta get the dynamics right. I gotta get on the notes right. And it's like there's so much stress in that space. That's why like when I branched out to do like pop and country music, I was like, this is so much more chill.
yeah, it's freeing and you're relaxed. You're so much more relaxed, right? Because you're like, "Oh, if I mess up, big whoop."
Yeah, for
You just move
sure.
on. "Oops,
Yeah.
wrong chord," you know?
Perfect. Yeah. So you did mention that you have a love for many different genres, and that definitely plays into your multi-genre artistry. So can you speak a little bit more about that and finding your sound?
Yeah, when I first started writing music, it was actually, at the request of someone else. They said, "Will you come and play?" I was accompanying singer-songwriters in New York City as a cellist. I was a singer, I just didn't, I fell back on my cello and just started playing, with singer-songwriters and bands in the city as, like, a freelance musician, and someone asked me to write music, and I was so scared to just write for the cello, to, like, that I said that I sang and played. And I sang a sweet song about, being on my stoop and accompanied myself pizzicato, right? And I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is so much fun," you know? And so I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing." So I basically just chose a genre. It's like, I'm gonna write a country song. I'm gonna write a pop song. I'm gonna write a blues song. Because I didn't feel like, pigeonholed into a genre in the sense that I didn't even know what I was doing, right? But that allowed me at least, the diversity of the background, and then they kind of came together because I just kept writing and writing, and then it was more whatever heard or felt or was inspired by, and so the genre didn't really, I didn't get feel pigeonholed or stuck in one genre because I had already pulled from so many, and I still feel like I want to explore all the genres or any genre I want just because it's too much fun. There's so much out there, you know?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. When I started writing music, I was very focused on pop music, and I still do a lot of that. But I started to branch out too into some country. There's some other multi-genre elements mixed in, and I love being multi-genre too because I feel like when you sit down to write a song, at least for me, the last thing on my mind is what genre is this going to be. I kind
Right.
of write it first, and then whatever it turns out being, that's how it is. And then if there's a certain genre that I feel like would make more sense, you can really bring out those elements in the studio as well. And so I think, especially when you're writing the song, focusing on the lyrics, the story, all of that, it doesn't really matter to me what genre that is.
Right, and because I started and just chose the genre of a song, then it totally changed after that because it was like, "Wow, I can actually write music." You know, I can write songs. I'm a songwriter. Like, I didn't know it at first, which was one of the greatest discoveries in my life, you know? Um, I love it. It's so much fun,
Yeah,
you know?
no.
It's fun when you finish a song.
Yeah, for sure. So, what made you make the choice to actually start releasing music?
I was performing. I started out again, and because of my songs, I love lyrics and I love telling stories, and some of them were comedic. So it was kind of a crazy, beginning. I was playing in comedy clubs, in New York City, and I did very well. And so, except it was really complicated because the sound system was tricky. You know, you just have a mic on a stand, and I'm a sitting singing cellist. Well, I kept playing live, and it was like everyone was like, Where do you have an album? Where can I hear you?" And I so I kind of did the opposite. Like, I didn't go into a studio first. I was playing live first. So then I had to go into a studio and start recording. And that was a whole new ball game because I really do feed off an audience. I love, I love seeing them. I love hearing them clap or laugh, etc. So my first foray into recording was scary, very scary. But I had to record, and now I love it. Now I want to record all the time.
I completely relate with the whole thing about it being really scary the first time, especially like because at the beginning, I didn't really like my voice, which is crazy to say, but like just listening back through the headphones, I was like, I don't like how I sound. And I think that really created barriers for me. But I think over time, growing confident in my songwriting and my voice and stuff, like there's been a really big evolution. And I went from being scared to go to the studio to just really looking forward to those studio days.
Right. And it does help to have some background in it because the first time you do it, it's so scary. It is. And you're nervous. And I don't like hearing myself either. Now I just have to get over it and I move on and hope you cross your fingers that you have a great time while you're recording because then that also comes through in the final process.
Mhm. Absolutely. And like tying back into what we were talking about earlier with having the music background, it's so much easier, I found, to like just be able to communicate with my producer and other musicians exactly what I want because I know the music terminology to get that across clearly. And so I found that super helpful as well.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. I do feel very lucky in that regard too. And I when I first started writing too, I was so excited that I was writing music that I wanted to have it in notation because that to me, as I think, because I had a classical background, I was like, I want to see my song on paper, more than, or on a stat on a sheet on a staff
Right, right.
versus like having it recorded. So then when I first started writing, I was really excited and I got Sibelius and tried to put it into notation too, which was pretty exciting. But that now there are so many apps now that you can use that are much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to use Finale for a hot minute because I did a lot of when I was in high school, I did a lot of, composition contests, so I notated it on there. So I have some of my own compositions and sheet music.
Exciting too. Like it's fabulous. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Perfect. So now I want to chat about some of your music. First, I would love to hear about your album, Great Blue.
Oh, Great Blue. Oh, I love that. That's my favorite album right now. But I was, as musicians, sometimes you have to pay the bills, which is pretty common. And so I had a day job, and I really hated my day job. But the best part of my day job was that I was able to commute across Central Park every day. And when I was commuting, I love to write, and I started becoming a little bit of a birder, and I found a great blue heron. And this great blue heron um, just like spoke to me. I don't know why. I found him in the winter, or her, and I started taking pictures and photography. And I just, I feel like that great blue heron sort of saved me at a time when I was very lost. Artistically, my dad had been diagnosed with cancer, just a bunch of stuff going on in my life. But that commute and that heron is just another song called Detoxin, which I would leave the day job and I'd go into Central Park and suddenly everything was clean again and clear again. And I could be myself. That's another song on the album. Um, but it was sort of I felt like I'd really turned a page musically. And this was my third album, and, I also released it under my name instead of Erin and her cello, which I don't know if I mentioned that I have 2 albums under Erin and her cello, and then I felt like I got a little pigeonholed as a cellist. People thought I was classical. So, but a singing, songwriting cellist is what I do. Anywho, so Great Blue, and also it's very diverse album. There are songs that are funky, there are songs that are jazzy. I have a cute little French pop song on there. Um, I love Serge Gainsbourg. A bunch of six. Sorry, my dog is on my lap. If you hear a caller. Um, yeah, I'm very proud of that album, and I love it when people actually listen. You know.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love it too, and I think it's so fun how the Great Blue Hen inspired this. Like when you're just out in nature, Like, did that happen a lot for you? Are you inspired by nature a lot?
Well, yes, very inspired, and in fact, because I grew up in Idaho and then I moved to New York City. So in Idaho, you have it everywhere and you take it for granted because it's like outside, it's in your backyard basically. You have mountains off in the background. We had a family cabin. We'd drive to this gorgeous drive, which is Lullaby of 55, my latest single. And moving to New York City, I found that I need the city parks. Like I need to be in nature almost every day because it's very calming. And there I read a book called The Nature Fix, which is also an amazing book that I highly recommend. Where there are all these scientific studies about how we breathe better, we relax, and then your creativity starts. Your brain starts getting excited. It's just nature. I mean, who knew?
Yeah. I love it so much. I love being in nature too. Like I can just be outside and get a whole story idea for a song or for just writing fiction too, which I also do. So yeah, I completely agree with you that nature is fabulous. And now I would love to hear about your new single Lullaby of 55.
So Lullaby of 55 was written in honor of my dad, who unfortunately passed away. He was my biggest fan, and he he when he was diagnosed with cancer, which happened while I was writing Great Blue, and the heron I really think was like my um, little angel. I think in a way to just like remind me I was going to be okay. Um, he I asked him where he wanted to go when he found out it was pancreatic cancer, and he said, "I just want to go to the cabin." So he just wanted to go to our family cabin, and that's like a 2-hour drive north of Boise, Idaho, just south of McCall, which is a gorgeous area in Idaho. Well, Highway 55, the route from Boise to McCall is stunning. You get all these different landscapes. You go up and then you go down, and then you're driving at these windy roads next to a river. So if you that's down below, so you got to watch the road. It's very scary actually, but it's gorgeous. And there are these beautiful pine trees and tamarack trees in the fall that turn yellow. Um, so I I I was, you know, really grieving, but I was able to find that song and hear that song, and it it's very special to me because I really wanted to capture that drive, but also help my dad fall asleep because he didn't sleep. He had trouble sleeping his whole career, his whole life, and that was a big factor, I think, as to why. I mean, I don't know why he got cancer, but I do think sleep is very important, and he never slept, so his body never could recover. So I wrote him a lullaby, and I drove him to the cabin where he a place that he just that's where he wanted to be. So that's the song.
Thank you so much for being so vulnerable about that. It's a beautiful song, and I think that it's going to resonate with a lot of people all around the world. So, congratulations on this one.
Thank you, Demi. I'm really proud of it too. I wish I had my dad, but I'm so grateful that he gave me that song.
Yeah, no, for sure. And do you want to briefly talk about how this was premiered on? Wasn't it on a show? It was on a show.
This is such an amazing story, and I do think my dad was looking out for me. I went because I live in New York, but I was in Idaho for just to see my family, and I ran into a fellow musician. His name is Curtis Stigers. He's an incredible musician, and he was like, "Hey, Erin, do you have a song about Idaho?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do actually. It's the one I wrote for my dad." And I was like, "I haven't recorded it yet, though." And he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna have someone call you." I was like, "Okay." And I got a call from Andy Lawless, who is a producer at Idaho Public Television. And he said they were working on a program called Idaho in Song, and they heard I had a song about Idaho. So I went over and met with him. Turns out he lived a block away from where I grew up. It was such a small, like, this is so Idaho story, right? And he loved the song, and I gave him a demo, and he was like, "Would you be interested in recording this live? And if so, would you want to record it with someone in Boise named Steve Fulton?" And I was like, "Yes, I know Steve." And then he's like, "Well, there's another guitarist I think you'd love, Dave Mannion." I was like, "I know Dave, because Idaho is small. And in the music scene, you start meeting everybody, and it's just wonderful." But so I ended up going back to Idaho to record this song at Audio Lab in Boise. Andy Lawless of Idaho Public Television filmed us record it, and they featured it in this series called Idaho in Song. And so I so lucked out because I got to record it in Idaho with people I knew and loved, and they brought that energy into the room. I also had my sister sing backup, which means so much to my dad, and my mom and my other sisters. I have 3 sisters. So it was just a kind of all around gorgeous experience, and I'm still unbelievably grateful.
I love that story. I love stories like this so much. That's so special.
Yeah, I feel so special. Even to be talking to you about it is special, like, you don't know how the world is going to work until things like this happen, and then I know I'm doing something right? And so are you. We're putting this music out there that makes people feel good, and I don't know, I feel so lucky, that's all.
For sure. Absolutely. Perfect. So, just to wrap up our chat, can you please share a piece of advice with everyone listening?
Go take a walk. I think that walking is so important for us, and take a walk in a park or a nature or bike ride, something that gets you out of your comfort zone or just out of your neighborhood even. As songwriters, right, I think I really need to be observant and get outside and just take something in new, like do something different, but get outside.
Amazing piece of advice. Thank you so much for joining me. Can you please share with everybody where they can find you online and listen to your music?
Okay, I'm on Spotify under Erin Hall, Erin Hall, boring. But I have erinhallmusic.com. On Instagram, I'm Erin Antercello. Apple Music, Erin Hall. all the streaming sites. I'm Erin and her cello, but Great Blue and Lullaby of 55 are Erin Hall.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Demise. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have fun with your songwriting.
I definitely will. And listeners, that is a wrap on this chat with Erin. And of course, until next time, stay
Stay
right
right
on
on
track.
track.